It's been pointed out by many before, but influence truly is the most valuable commodity out there in 2022. The best days of stiff, artificial, and heavily programmed corporate advertising are already past. The new currencies of effective promotion are authenticity and genuine affinity for a brand. It's here that Cardano might be able to most directly tap into the ocean of mainstream consumers. No one is genuinely passionate about discovering a blockchain that's broken by fees or one that's controlled by VCs, but a lot of normal and influential people alike will be inspired by a blockchain that looks and acts like Cardano. Ready? Let's go. Today, we are going to discuss the Charles, Snoop, Champ, Lenna Twitter space, Activision and NFTs, not activism and NFTs. I'm not trying to bore you to death. We're talking about Activision and NFTs. ReadyPlayerMe, Adidas, and Pavia, a new MuesliSwap function, and an update on Indigo. If living through the 90s ensured that you were already very well acquainted with Warren G prior to today's Twitter space, or if you are enjoying these Cardano videos each weekday, please consider delegating to the Army of Spies stake pool, ticker AOS. I think this Twitter space was everything we could have hoped it to be. One of the biggest surprises for me was seeing Warren G on this Twitter space. I was pretty shocked when I found out that Snoop Dogg and Charles Hoskinson were going to be talking, but I cannot even tell you how prominent Warren G's music was during my teenage years. This was kind of a shocking worlds colliding moment, I think, probably for a lot of us who were alive during that era. I never thought I'd see Charles Hoskinson talking to Warren G. I don't know why that was such a shock to me. But I think one of the most interesting things about this Twitter space was why these very influential figures were involved. Because this could have easily been the bad version. This could have been the version where Snoop Dogg, Warren G, whatever big celebrities you want to name, jump on to some kind of crypto related social media thing. And it's obvious they're just there because crypto is the trendy thing. NFTs are popular. It could have been that thing, but it wasn't. It wasn't that. One of the most interesting things was that Snoop Dogg seems to be trying to find the same thing that crypto has always been after. He spent a lot of time talking about the bad economics of the music industry and even expanded that to say that the entire entertainment industry is built in a way that whatever the intention is, the end result is that the artist always gets cheated. I think we've all heard the stories about famous recording artists signing with a label. Some of their music gets wildly popular. The label somehow makes a ton of money, and at the end of the day, the artist made a little bit of money, but not much at all, really. And they end up kind of broke after the end of it. In fact, Snoop Dogg kind of talked about the early days when he and Warren G were sort of recording some of their biggest hits in the 90s. And he likened them to, I'm paraphrasing, but he likened them to something like imaginary rappers because they were rapping, but they weren't actually making any money. And their music was popular, still is popular, will probably be popular for a really long time. But he said they weren't really making money because the labels owned the masters and the labels were making all the money. And it seems like what Snoop is really after with his involvement in crypto and the NFT scene, all of this, is that he realizes one of the crucial things about this whole crypto blockchain scene, and that's that the whole point is to disintermediate the middlemen. And Snoop seems to have realized probably a lot quicker than a lot of other recording artists and artists in general, really, that this disintermediation of the middleman will also apply to entities like record labels and everybody else who ends up making all the money in entertainment. You might be aware that earlier this year, Snoop Dogg acquired Death Row Records, which is where he and Warren G recorded some of their biggest hits back in the 90s. A cynical mind might assume, okay, everything's come full circle now. Maybe Snoop Dogg got cheated at the start of his career, but now it's come full circle. And he's basically in the position now where he can do the same thing to young artists that were done to him. But that's actually not what's going on at all. In the Twitter space today, Snoop talked a lot about the bad economics in the entertainment industry and how everything is kind of designed to cheat the artist. He said that Death Row Records, which he has acquired, is in a collaboration right now with Gala Games and Gala Music to turn Death Row into an NFT music label. He wants to build a new system where the artist doesn't get cheated. They're getting their hands on the masters from Death Row Records, and they want to bring that intellectual property to the blockchain space so that the fans can have a piece of that. Charles pointed out the blockchain advantages of guaranteed escrow funds for artists, so they don't have to worry about not getting paid on the back end, microtransactions for tips for artists, and the equivalent of artist ICOs. All of these things can help cut out the record label middlemen. Snoop also talked about how the NFT owners will have the right to remix NFT owned tracks and do whatever they want with them. He was talking about guys buying NFTs of tracks he's releasing and then rapping right alongside him, which is something he said would cost an absurd amount of money if they try to do it outside of this sort of NFT framework. Snoop also wants to do a how-to with Charles to introduce the traditional crowd to crypto and NFTs. I think for a lot of people, this will remind them of the very, very popular collaboration between Snoop and Martha Stewart. Not equating Charles with Martha Stewart, but I think you can see sort of like the clash of images is sort of similar here. The discussion today introduced some really interesting topics. What does the music industry look like if it becomes the norm for artists to just ICO themselves as an artist at the beginning of their career as opposed to signing with a label? The purchaser of those tokens, what do they end up owning? When you buy an NFT that corresponds to a particular Snoop Dogg song, what do you actually end up owning? If there are 1,500 NFTs that all correspond to that song, what kind of ownership rights over the song does each NFT holder have versus the other NFT holders? I think a lot of these things, and these are things, these aren't brand new topics. These have been going on and things that were discussed in the crypto space for a few years now. But I think this is going to come to a head when very well-known and respected artists like Snoop Dogg suddenly realize that for maybe the first time ever, the artist can actually cut out the record labels. And eventually this is also going to apply to other mediums of art. I think it's going to apply to films and to television as well. But I think the important thing here is that Snoop Dogg and Warren G are on this call. They're trying to get involved in the Cardano ecosystem, not for the same reason as a lot of other celebrities. This is not like some celebrity buying a Bathing Ape Yacht Club NFT because every other celebrity is doing it. This is different. They're getting involved with this because they want to disintermediate all the middlemen in show business. As artists, they're actually understanding the utility of the blockchain. And it makes sense. When you're actually after the utility, it makes sense that you'd be attracted to Cardano. You're not going to go with a chain that's broken by fees. You're not going to want to become involved in a system where the proof of work miners are the new middlemen capturing a lot of the economic value. You're going to go for the blockchain that doesn't have those kinds of super powerful middlemen sucking up all the money. You're also not going to go for a blockchain that's controlled by venture capitalists. You don't want to be involved in a blockchain. If you've been around as long as Snoop and Warren G have, you don't want to be involved in a blockchain where some super rich guys in Silicon Valley are going to turn around one day and just dump on the heads of all of your fans who have bought into that blockchain because they want to interact with your intellectual property. They've probably had similar things happen to them in their careers over the years. They're looking for an actual decentralized ecosystem where they can create intellectual property, get it in the hands of their fans, and disintermediate all those middlemen. They don't want miners to be the new middlemen. They don't want VCs to suddenly turn the tables on them. They just want a level playing field where there are no middlemen. It makes sense that they would come to Cardano. These are the kinds of influencers you want involved in your blockchain ecosystem. You don't want any of the hordes of social media shills. You want people who actually understand the utility of blockchain technology, who are actually beneficiaries of the utility of blockchain technology and its utility they probably can't get anywhere else. These are the kinds of influencers we want. Here's another one of those things that could be far more impactful for crypto generally. This isn't about Cardano specifically, but about crypto generally. This could be far more impactful than all of the social media shill activity that could ever be produced. This is an article from Watcher.guru that's reporting Activision Blizzard might incorporate NFTs into Call of Duty. So it's all very unclear whether or not this is something that's actually going to happen or they're just talking about it. But I think the important thing is that they're talking about it. This is something we've talked about in crypto for years. Everybody's kind of already always known that one of the primary and great use cases for NFTs would be in-game digital assets. Currently, those assets largely live on servers controlled by the game houses like Activision Blizzard. And if they just chose to turn off their servers, it's like, oh, so sorry, you might have spent 1,000 hours in this game, 10,000 hours, whatever, but we're just kind of turning all that off. So you don't really own those digital assets in the same way you would if they were NFTs that lived on the blockchain. Obviously, one of the great things about a decentralized blockchain like Cardano is that those digital assets could live forever and no one could turn off a server to take those away from you. This is something that's going to happen eventually. We just don't know when. But every time I see an article like this, I think we're one step closer. Speaking of well-known brands getting involved in the NFT world, here's a post from Pavia. They say, we're super excited for these. They will be fully accessible to the Pavia.io community. More details to follow. So you probably know the avatar partner of Pavia is ReadyPlayerMe, which I think was a pretty good move rather than creating their own avatars, because while Pavia is busy working on their whole metaverse world, ReadyPlayerMe is out there making partnerships like this one apparently with Adidas. So I guess if all this works out, if Pavia actually builds the kind of metaverse we hope they do, and this ReadyPlayerMe deal with Adidas works out, hopefully your avatar in Pavia one day could be wearing Adidas if you wanted to. We also saw MuesliSwap sort of quietly roll this out. They said introducing limit swaps on MuesliSwap. Place limit swaps on all major DEX protocols through MuesliSwap. Make sure to get the best pool at the best price from whichever DEX protocol on the Cardano blockchain. Place your limits now. This is interesting. So MuesliSwap they were kind of quiet about introducing this DEX aggregator. But if you think about this in terms of pure utility, now you can place the equivalent of limit orders, and MuesliSwap is going to aggregate all of the big DEXs on the Cardano blockchain for you. I don't know. I haven't checked to see exactly which DEXs they've got that are a part of the aggregation right now, but I'm assuming it's probably a good number of them. I mean, the thing is, we've got a lot of DEXs now. We're kind of building up. First, it was just MuesliSwap, then we had SundaySwap, then we had MinSwap. Soon we'll have Wing Riders. Soon we'll have a bunch of others. I mean, eventually we're going to have half a dozen up and running DEXs, good up and running DEXs. Pretty soon after that, we might have double digits. And of course, it looks like this is just referring to the AMM style DEXs with liquidity pools. But this is pretty big functionality. Now we can place limit orders and swap against an aggregation of all the DEXs on Cardano, looks like. Finally, we now have step number 3 from Indigo. If you've been following along, you know that apparently Indigo is going to have an airdrop, And we've already been through steps 1 and 2. Step 1 was go vote in the governance forum. And I believe the choices were, should the airdrop happen at launch or a year after launch? No surprise there. We covered this when the vote went down. No surprise there. People voted overwhelmingly to have the airdrop happen sooner rather than later. I don't think anybody was surprised by that. And then step number 2 was to link, if I remember correctly, link your governance forum user ID to your Discord user ID. Those are now closed. Apparently, according to this post, you can't do those anymore. So if you didn't do them, this is probably relevant to you. But if you did, step number 3 is take this quiz. They say earn your guru title, token distribution step 3. This quiz helps our community to be knowledgeable and ready to use their indie upon launch. And don't forget, the disclosure is always here. No action guarantees airdrop. They keep letting us know nothing we do guarantees the airdrop. I've looked at this quiz. The questions are probably not shocking to you if you've listened to interviews with the Indigo founders and followed along in their Discord and read the stuff they're putting out. A recent interview, which I thought was very good, was the one that Big Pay did with Eric Coley and DC. That was where this step number 3 was first revealed, and they talked a lot about why they were doing it and how the protocol is going to work, what they're trying to accomplish, all those things. Great interview. Go check that out over on Big Pay's channel if you're interested in Indigo. I hope everybody's having a great week, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.